Suicide is something that most people don't want to talk about, but it's something that needs to be discussed. According to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, over 42,000 Americans commit suicide each year. Out of every one who commits it, 25 attempt it. It's the 10th leading cause of death in America alone. Without awareness, education, and prevention, suicide will continue to rise. I ask of you, how many of you have been affected by someone who's committed suicide or attempted to? For me, it was the day I'll never forget. Friday, June 5th, 2015. I received a phone call at work from my son's school counselor stating students made her aware of my son's Instagram account on his plan to commit suicide. There were just issues that he felt he couldn't deal with, and he thought that the world would be better off without him. How many of you have ever contemplated suicide because the issues that you were dealing with were just too much? You're not alone in this crisis. Many find themselves at a crossroad when dealing with issues. Nowhere to turn to, no one to talk to, lack of coping skills and resources. Many cope with life pressures in many different ways. Studies show that when the economy is down, suicide rates are up. Not just when the economy is down is there a chance to have negative thoughts of suicide. Some have clinical depression, and without proper treatment, they lack the ability to do their daily tasks that they normally would. Others deal with medical and aging issues negatively. They feel that if they end their lives now, that the future will be better for others. There are many signs when recognizing somebody that may be mentally unstable or starting to have behavioral issues. One may start to increase drugs and alcohol. They may be behaving recklessly, seclude themselves from others and activities. Their mood changes. They become more irritable. Anxiety starts to kick in. They even start to blame themselves for the littlest things. Family members or friends that encounter these with others, they need to take action immediately. By one being aware of the signs of suicide, they can allow to educate others. Because the topic of suicide is not freely talked about amongst people like drug and alcohol abuse or even cancer, no one really knows. Bringing awareness and education to all is a key point in getting the suicide rate down. And it cannot be dismissed as a personal issue anymore. One does not have to be alone in the struggle. There are treatment options. Did you know that 90% of the suicide deaths are from people left untreated from mental illness? That is absurd that only 10% of people get the treatment that they need and deserve. And it's not just in America that mental illness is frowned upon. But many other countries, like Hungary, if someone was to attempt suicide, they get 5 years in prison. In North Korea, if a family member attempts to kill themselves, family members get placed in jail. These are just 2 countries that Graham Pebbles talks about in his why are the rates of suicide soaring across the planet. There are many treatment options one has when dealing with depression and how to cope with the feeling of suicide. One is to start communicating with a counselor. They'll give you coping mechanisms to deal with your daily struggles, like job loss, loss of a family member, relationship issues, substance abuse, or any other issue that's overwhelming that seems to have no positive outlook. Recognizing issues at hand is the first step of getting through this. Start focusing on interests. Surround yourself with positive people that you can trust, that you can go and talk to. Some find that is all they need when dealing with suicide thoughts, but others may be clinically depressed and need to see a psychiatrist and find a medication that could work for them. Being on meds and follow-up care through a counselor, studies are showing that communicating with them, their rates of suicide are dropping. This is a worldwide issue that needs to be brought to the forefront of mental illness awareness. Education and prevention is the tool. This can't be looked at as a selfish issue, but as a disease that can be cured with proper tools and resources. It can't be judged, frowned upon, or even punished, but looked at as something that can be changed with the help of others. Thanks to my son's friends, they took the last step in awareness. They took the first step in awareness that somebody needed help in stopping what could have been the worst day of my life. Kason was unable to follow through with his suicide plan. And by getting the proper counseling and treatment, he is learning to deal with his issues. The topic of suicide is no longer not discussed in our household and with others. This is something that needs to be discussed just as anything else that needs awareness brought to. By being able to see the signs and the ability to use proper resources and tools to get help, there is no reason why the rate of suicide cannot go down.